Hey there, Trailblazers. Welcome back to another episode. I'm now this ESL Trailblazer. Let's make something happen. Let's build that momentum, burn to learn. So, building on that momentum from last week's episode with essay tips, I want to give you some tips this week for communication. So, are you reluctant to speak in certain situations, whether at work or outside of work? Are you talking in a confused way where people have to ask you to repeat or rephrase what you have said? That must be frustrating. And that's what I want to focus on today. Are you able to express your ideas well? Are you able to be clear? Are you able to be clear and easy to understand when people are talking to you? These are essential aims or goals that you should have as a language learner, and things that you need to check off your list to make sure that you are able to do it properly. And I'm going to share with you some tips on how you can make sure to improve those areas if some of them that I've just mentioned are areas that you need to work on. Stay tuned for all my tips right after this message. Alright, and welcome back. Let's get right into it without further ado. So I want to start with the reluctance to speak. Okay, if you know that you are hesitant or reserved, this is a confidence issue. So my tip is to put yourself in a situation where you have to communicate with people as much as possible, okay? And I don't mean to say that you need to change your character or your personality and be more sociable or extroverted if you're not and you're more introverted. That's understandable. People are one or the other, and there's nothing they can do to change it. But what I mean is maybe try and be a little bit more outgoing. If you're in a new workplace, or you're in a new school or a new university and you have new classmates, just being a little bit more outgoing in the sense of trying to find opportunities to speak with others, meet others, talk with others. This will help you build your confidence by getting to know the people that you're working with or studying with or befriending in a camp. And that is going to go a long way in helping build that confidence so you're not as reluctant and hesitant. You got to face that fear head on and take it on by just being a little bit more outgoing. So that's my first tip. The second tip is responsiveness. Okay, so what I mean by that is you need to be more eager to react and communicate with the people you're speaking with. And this comes in handy with, you guessed it, listening. And I've mentioned it many times in previous episodes that you can watch. There's many links to episodes where I've talked about conversation skills, but being a good listener is number one, just as important. If you're introverted, that's going to be no problem because you don't talk much to begin with. But if you're very extroverted and you do talk a lot, but maybe you're rambling, that means talking without any point or sense, or just talking to fill in the quietness, that is no good. So responsiveness is all about like reacting, commenting, and saying something based on what you've heard the other person say. This is responsiveness. And people will feel a lot more better and they'll be a lot more eager to speak with you and have a conversation with you if they see that you are listening to them and responding to what they're saying instead of just waiting for them to finish so that you could speak. Okay? So you might be quite a fluent speaker or an advanced language learner and still need to work on that. So think about it, think about your effectiveness as a speaker and decide whether that's something that you need to focus on. My next tip is about being concise. It's my favorite one, and it's the one that I constantly tell my students about because a lot of them who are upper intermediate to advanced learners already are able to communicate what they want to say. The problem that they have very often is that they need to use a lot of language, a lot of words to really express it. And that is the problem, that they need to learn how to be more economical with their words. Concise, that's what it means. Use less words to say more. This is especially important when you're writing emails or any kind of written communication in general. But we can't be concise in emails, though we can be in text messages, because that's not acceptable way of writing emails, okay? And well, it shouldn't be an acceptable way of writing in general, in my personal opinion. But in speech, it's even more important. So you need to focus, if you want to be more concise and you're not, you need to focus on more sophisticated words, synonyms that are able that allow you to express what you want to say in smaller, shorter sentences. And that might also include some more advanced grammar structures, which is the point of learning them, which is how you get to fluency level. Fluency is not just about like speaking without making any mistakes. It's about being economical and using words without needing to say too much. Because if you speak too much, you will lose your listener. Okay, the next one for me is persuasiveness. This is not at the top of my list, but it is an important one, especially if you're in sales. And regardless of if you're in sales or marketing or advertising, nowadays in the world we live in, we have to sell ourselves. Whether we're applying for a job or we're trying to get into a new university, we're going to be asked questions about who we are, and we need to be able to sell ourselves if we want to be part of a team that's doing something great at work, or we want to get the job, or we want to get accepted to a university, or we are on a date. If we're on a date, we gotta sell ourselves a little bit, right? So I'm not gonna go into details about that, but you know what I mean. And persuasiveness, getting people to agree with you or see your point of view or take your advice or the suggestions that you give them, is something that not everybody is very good at and needs practice. And so if that is something that you know based on what I'm telling you now to focus on, then you know where to go and in what direction to start practicing. Okay, those are the main tips. I have a few other things I would like to mention. I want to keep this episode short. Don't be vague and don't interrupt. Okay, interrupting should be an obvious thing, but maybe you do it without realizing it. And that means that you're thinking already about what you want to say without showing that you're listening to that other person. And that might mean interrupting them or just waiting for them to finish so that you can speak. Bad habit. Terrible. And maybe that's not language based, but it will have effect on your communication. The don't be vague comment that I gave is something that my students do a lot in their writing and in their speaking. And it means that you're not giving your point of view. You're not telling me who you are and what you believe and what your side of the story is. When you're too vague, you're also probably using very basic language to say what an experience or a feeling was like, and that shows lack of fluency. So then you know that that's what you need to improve on as well. Okay, that's connected with being articulate, and that means being able to express your ideas well. If you're able to express your ideas well, you're going to build your confidence each time, because you know that if someone asks you a difficult question, you'll be able to respond. Now, if you're in a work professional environment, that means learning the work that you do better than anybody else, knowing the jargon, knowing the industry language that needs to be used in meetings, in presentations, in discussions, and quality assurance. Okay, so that's all the tips that I got for you. I hope that can help you navigate where you need to focus on in order to improve your communication. The tips are things that I share with my students all the time. And before I leave you, I have 2 words that I used this week in my lessons that my students found valuable, and I think you will too. The first one is indescribable. Great word. And the second word is inconsiderate. Okay, so let's start with indescribable. Indescribable is connected with what I said about being vague. If someone asks you about an experience or a feeling and you say, oh, it was good, oh, it was fun, oh yeah, I really enjoyed it, you're being vague. Because you're using basic words to say about an experience or feeling, and I don't really know how it was. But if you tell me that it was indescribable, then I know that it was something that you had never experienced before. That it was something that it was so amazing, great, or terrible, horrible, that you hope it never happens again, or you wish it would happen again. Okay, so I'm impressed and I'd want to know more. Really? Indescribable? What happened exactly? Like, I would be eager to ask you more questions about this. Okay, great word to learn to substitute for the basic words for saying, describing a feeling or an experience. The other word, inconsiderate, is one that I found a lot of Polish students were interested in, because it's not a word that has a direct translation in Polish, and it's not really connected with politeness or kindness. It's about thinking of others. Okay, so if you're using a coffee machine at work and you make your coffee but the water runs out or the coffee runs out and you just walk away, you're being inconsiderate. A considerate person replenishes the coffee, refills the water, or holds the door open because they see someone right behind them about to enter as well. So considerate, you're thinking of others when you do things, and your colleagues, your classmates, the people around you appreciate this. So this is a nice quality trait, something that you can work on your own if you think that maybe you lack that a little bit. Okay, so that's all the language I have for this week and the tips. I hope you found them valuable. Remember to subscribe or share with others who you think would like these videos. I also have a Freshen Up Fridays newsletter that has a lot more stuff than what these videos are. You can click on the link below to subscribe and check it out. And of course, the language and everything we talked about are in the comments below. Thank you very much. Be proud, teachers. Have a great work week. I'm Nandis, signing out. See you next week for another episode. Trailblazers, it's been a pleasure. Take care. See you.